Hello students, welcome to Career 360. You all know that the JEE application form is already live and all of you would be competing for about 17,500 seats in IITs, about 24,000 plus seats in NITs and another 8,500 seats in IIITs. But the competition is going to be more intense. This year, in my expectation, about 15 lakh plus students will take the JEE examination. And that is where your problem starts. Because if you're likely to get anything less than 98 percentile, the chances that we will get into a IIT or an NIT are very, very meager, very slim. And if you want a branch of your choice or an IIT or NIT of your choice, then you need to get a 99 percentile. So as a counselor, I always advise students that please keep your other options open. And if you're getting anything less than 95 percentile at this point in time in your mock tests, it's very important for you to start working on the other options right away while continue to working for cracking the JEE examination. And from that perspective, we have recommended a few examinations, or we think that there are a few examinations that you must keep or you must take so that your options are much more broader. We've already recommended VIT as an examination, VIT EEE. Now, right now, what I'm about to speak is the Amrita examination, Amrita University. I'll also tell you through data of why you must take the Amrita examination. Amrita University is in south of India. The reason why we recommend this examination is multifold, but let me give you three reasons. It's got scale. Its intake is close to about 10,000 plus. It's been working hard on its placements. At least based on the NRF data, 100% of its students were placed last year. And most importantly, it is one of the most pedigreed and legacy-driven universities in the country. It's an institution of eminence. It's got the best rank in NIRF as a private university. It's ranked in QS. It's got a NAAC AA plus rating. So the thing that you have is that every single checkbox that you would want to have from a university is something that Amrita fulfills. But most importantly, a lot of students keep asking me, but how is the placement? So today, what we're about to do is to dive very, very deep into the placement scenario at Amrita. And exactly tell you, because one is what the university tells NIRF and all the possibility, it is absolutely correct. But we wanted to just cover the entire spectrum of what the placements are, where are the students who studied at Amrita at any point in time studying, and how does it affect you. This is a deep down dive into the placement scenario at Amrita University over the years, so that you actually have a fair understanding of how it works out if you were to study at Amrita. First, let me explain to you of Amrita itself. Amrita has about 9 campuses in Coimbatore, Chennai, Amravati, Amritapuri, Bangalore, Faridabad, Kochi, Mysore and Nagarcoil. So the range of campuses that you have is very, very huge. In fact, as a university, they also have a Faridabad campus, but the Faridabad campus essentially is largely medical but few of engineering, and it's got the largest hospital in Faridabad anywhere in Asia. It's got about 2,500 beds. So that's the kind of university that we're dealing with, where they've covered every single thing that is to do with education, including engineering and medical. It's ranked, as I said, 18th in the overall category in NIRF ranking, 7th in the university category, and 8th in the medical category. Again, the same thing, NIRF ranking. Just look at this whole thing. It's got 23rd in engineering only, ranked 4th in private institutions across the country. Overall category for the university is about 18th. Engineering category 2024 is again 23. University category is 7. The Career 360 ranking, our own rating that we do, it's got the best rating around at 5A. In QS ranking, it's ranked 1001 to 1200 bracket around the world. I do think that some of the private institutions that are above Amrita are undeserving as much as Amrita is, but that's my personal take. The NAAC rating is A++, which is one of the best that you can think of, and they're also accredited across NBA, NABL and AACSB for their MBA programs. So they've got all the check boxes that a student must be looking at in terms of how the world views Amrita in terms of its rating, ranking and its accreditations. Now, the degree courses, again, they've got many, the options that you have at Amrita are very wide. Though we're currently dealing with engineering, you should understand what the university is, right? And they have about 417 plus degree programs across the university. Now, this is largely because they are also a medical university. So, in health sciences, you actually have very, very specialized degree programs, so which is where it happens, of which UG is 142. And PG is 233, and this 233 is largely because of the medical and health sciences. Then you have doctoral about 89 plus, BE BTech, they have 41 programs. This is important for you because this is what we're going to be dealing with. Ultimately, we'll be talking about this as we move along. right? In ME MTech, they have 48, of which some are integrated programs, and about 66 plus PhD programs, right? Now let's understand the campuses that Amrita has. Amrita has, as I said, 9 campuses. The big one is the Coimbatore one, which is a deemed private university across 400 acres, where about 11,071 students study, of which 77% are boys and 23% are girls. 68% come from outside the state of Tamil Nadu, and which means 32% are from the state of Tamil Nadu. So it's a very, very good diversity that you have, geographical and gender diversity. In fact, about 112 students come from outside the country, which means it's aspirational enough that students from outside the country want to come and study at Amrita. Then they have the Amritapuri campus, which on 80 acres of land. They have the Chennai campus on 13.5 acres of land. They have the Amravati campus on 100 acres of land. They have the Faridabad campus on 130 acres. This also includes, by the way, the hospital that you're looking at here. They have the Mysore campus on 5 acres. They have Nagarcoil, which they recently, by the way, acquired on a 100 acres thing, which is a college that they acquired, and now this campus will give the Amrita University degree. They have the Bangalore campus with 50 acres of land. Now, this they created because Bangalore is a hub for software, and they wanted to create some programs which are essentially meant for the country and to be based out of Bangalore. So they got the 50 acres land there. And Kochi, about 120 acres. This is where it all started in 2002. Now, the reason why we are talking of all these 9 campuses is that you actually have a wider choice of students going into any other campus and then studying there. So the options for the students are much, much more than what you would have. Now, any university, we always say, is not made by the buildings that they create, but by the kind of quality and the quality of faculty that they have. Amrita excels in that also. At this point in time, of the 1,005 faculty that Amrita has, 835 are PhD, which means about 83% or 83.5% of the faculty is PhD, which is very, very good. And 947 of them, which is about 95% of them, are permanent faculty too. By the way, they also have a lot of visiting faculty. Some of the best faculty because of the connections that they have internationally. But at this point in time, we talk of permanent faculty. 95% of them are permanent faculty, and of which 84% of them are PhDs. Now let's come to the placement, because that is where we are all talking about how good is the placement, Amrita. And this is a question that a lot of people ask me, because ultimately in India, a lot of students decide on which college to join based on the kind of placement that they have, the kind of companies that come for placement, and the quality of placement that they have, including the median salary and everything like that. So what I'm showing you right now is all this data that we are about to present is from authoritative sources. The first source of data is NIRF, which is the Government of India thing. It's called the NIRF, National Institutional Ranking Framework, done by the Ministry of India, Ministry of Education and Government of India. Here when you see in 22-23, the sanctioned intake for UG is 3,180 and for PG it's 800. We are dealing with the 3180 at this point in time, right? Now, and that is how it was. It was 3180, 3240, it keeps going on, right? Now, this is for one campus, which is Coimbatore, as far as I know. The total actual strength of students, when you add up everything, in UG is about 8,473. Because 4 years of students, they were taking lesser number of students earlier and then it kept growing up. So you actually have 8,473 students who are right now at Amrita University, right? Possibly at the Coimbatore campus. Now, and a few other campuses also, I just need to check that out. Now, of this, when you look at the placement that you have, and let's talk of the 22-23 placement. When you say 22-23 placement, it means that these students would have joined in 2018-19 and graduated in 22-23. Only then, once you graduate, you get placed, right? Of the 2,267 students who graduated, 1,834 students were placed at 7.24 lakh average median salary, and 433 wanted to pursue higher education, which means they left. They wanted to do the post-graduation either in India or outside. So the thing is, if you now look at this whole scenario and go back to the actual data, in 2023, 2312 is the total, students who graduated. 2267, this was the admitted. 2267 was graduated, of which 1,834 were placed, and 433 chose to opt for higher education, which means it's got a 100% placement ratio at 7.24 lakh rupees. Now, when you have these numbers of 100% placement, it's very, very good. Now, Amrita is one of the most, a university which is very, very disciplined in the way they structure the curriculum, their pedagogy, their studying, habits, and the way they deal with the students. But all that leads to something, and that something is that 100% placement. At the scale at which they operate, 100% placement and a median salary of 7.24 lakh is supposed to be very, very good. I also know that the computer sciences students get 12 lakh, 15 lakh, 20 lakh offers. That also happens. But at a median salary level, because they also have a lot of core engineering branches, the median salary is 7.24 lakh. There is something else that I wanted to show you. I'll come to it later in terms of the placement, because ultimately we're talking of placement, right? Now, in my opinion, this year Amrita would be having about 11 to 12,000 students intake. This is the kind of intake that you'll be dealing with. In 23-24, they had about 76,834 applications for about 10 to 11,000 intake, and this year it will be about 12,000 intake for BTech. Now, which essentially means that you actually have 6 to 7 applications for each seat that is there at Amrita. So the competitiveness at Amrita is that the rejection ratio is 1:6 or 1:7 kind of a thing, which is again a decent chance for you to actually get into the university. If you now look at the other thing, which is a JEE or a BITSAT and all, the rejection ratio is 1:30 to 1:50. Here it's about 1:6. So you have a decent chance, and it's a good option for you, because here you are getting into a university where you have a decent chance of getting in, and 100% placement is what they work on, and that is good. Now let's go to the another set of data. Now, by the way, we did this last year, 2021, they actually had 69,000 seats, applicants for 9,890 seats, which is again 1:7 if you look at it. The data, again, whatever we look at, data is always from official sources. Like the data that we got is from AQAR, which is a annual quarter, it's a report that is filed where it talks of 9890 as the number of seats available during the year. So every single data that I'm showing you to you right now is from a regulatory filing or a government filing or from the government records. Now let's look at one of the things is, as I told you, there is a declaration by the Amrita University with the Government of India where they talk of 100% placement, and every single student who wanted to sit for placement has been placed, and the median salary is 7.24 lakh. But that is a filing by the university. We wanted to expand the scope dramatically and cover from other media sources of where exactly do the students who studied at Amrita right now, where are they working, what are they doing, and where are they working. Now for that, we sourced LinkedIn, and the reason why we went about doing that is we wanted to actually not just go by the filing by the university, but actually a declaration or a statement that is made by the student himself or herself of where they are studying or what they are currently doing. So for that, we examined 48,164 alumni who are right now on LinkedIn. These are the total number of students that we found who studied at Amrita and also on LinkedIn. So we started our exercise from this number, 48,164. When we examined this data, it is very interesting of what happened, right? Of this 48,000 plus data, about 1,800 worked at TCS at some point in time, of which 601 are currently working, and the other 1,200 would have moved on to some other jobs, which means about 4.5% of the total alumni of Amrita worked at TCS at some point in time. 48,000 and 1,800. About 1,600 worked at Cognizant, which is 4% of its students worked at Cognizant at some point in time. Infosys 1,300, which is about 3.5%. Right? Accenture 695, which is about 2%, 1.75%. Amazon 538, IBM 506, Ernst & Young 466. So what you're dealing with is, if you now look at these 6 companies that we're talking of, 4.5 plus 4 plus 3.5 plus 2 and so on and so forth, you essentially have about 15% students working within this whole range, 15 to 17% students, but in some of the best companies that you're dealing with. Now, you can always say that, okay, these universities, recruit at scale. So tell me, what are the better companies that come here for placement? That's a very important question. That's a very, very pertinent question too. And I would answer that as I move along. But coming back to this particular data, right now, if you look at it, TCS, there are 601 people are right now working at TCS, 362 are right now working in Cognizant, 286 are right now working in Infosys, 277 in Accenture, which means these companies, in all possibility, are going for placement at Amrita, because of which right now so many students are working. If these companies are not going for placement at the campus, so much number would not come about. So We talked of the 100% placement there. Now we're talking of the kind of companies that are actually going for placement through what is the social media profile or the LinkedIn profile of the students out there. Now let's go to the other part of it, right? We also talked of, okay, these companies recruit at scale. What can we understand of the better, the big companies, the big tech companies, and where are they recruiting from? And does Amrita stand a chance of getting a placement from Google or Amazon and so on and so forth? So let's go through that data also. Now we looked at some of the smaller niche companies, but who recruit very small, but do they go to Amrita? Now let's look at Deloitte. Deloitte, there are 391 students who worked at Deloitte at some point in time, of which 196 are currently working, which means Deloitte is going for campus placement at Amrita, right? Cisco, 96 students are right now working, which means again Cisco also goes for campus placements. Oracle, 114 currently and 273 in all. Intel Corp, 230 and 99 currently. SAP, 256 and 106 currently. Microsoft, 184 students had worked at, studied at Amrita, of which 68 are currently working at Microsoft. And Adobe, 51, worked at, studied at Amrita and worked at Adobe at any point in time. And 14 are currently working, which means all these companies in all possibility are right now going for campus placement at Amrita. Now let us refine this much better, more. I would want you to keep, narrowing the funnel to the best companies that are out there. So I looked at the big companies, the trillion-dollar companies that you have in terms of market cap. We started with Apple, Google, Nvidia, McKinsey, Meta, JP Morgan, BCG and all, because these are the pedigreed companies, the most niche companies that you have who pay a lot of money, and they select their universities or institutions that they will go for placement very, very selectively. They're extremely selective about where they go for placements, campus placements. So from that perspective, I started this entire exercise. What did I do? I said, okay, in Apple, how many students actually, studied at Amrita but worked at Apple? There were 50 students we found who studied at Amrita and worked at Apple at some point in time, of which 30 are currently working. Now, it doesn't mean that Apple goes for campus placement. I would not guarantee that. But the fact is that when 30 people are working, and Apple has a lesser turnover of people, which means people who join Apple, they don't leave it as fast as what they would leave some other larger companies. So, but still, having said that, when you have 30 people currently working at Apple, it means a lot. Similarly, in Google, currently 45 people are working who studied at Amrita, and 90 were worked at it, studied at it at any point in time. Vidya, 30. Vidya is the second largest market cap company in the world at this point in time. About $2.5–3 trillion is what its market cap is. And 17 students, right now are working in Vidya who studied at Amrita, right? Then McKinsey, one of the best consulting companies that you have, 15 students right now are working at McKinsey. Meta, 10 students are currently working at Meta. JP Morgan, 4, and BCG, which is again another consulting company, Boston Consulting Group, and 3 students working in. By the way, remember, these companies recruit very, very small and are very selective of the campuses that they go to. The fact that so many students are working in these companies but have studied at Amrita at some point and are working at some point in time here or are right now working, this means a lot, which means that the quality of education that Amrita gives is good enough for them to scale up, grow and join one of these companies either through campus placements or maybe on their own. One doesn't know these things, but the fact is that so many students are working there, which is a good enough indicator of the kind of quality of education that Amrita provides. Now I'll go to the next one, right? It obviously means that when you say, okay, they're working at Google or Amazon or whatever, what is the kind of role that they have or what kind of education that did they have? When we looked at again what are the roles, the fields of study that they made, you suddenly see that computer science is something which is very common. Computational science is very, very common. Mathematics is there, physics is there, electrical engineering is there, computer and information systems is there. So again, most of these companies, they are tech companies, you would know that. So they essentially are possibly, recruiting either from the campus or from outside, but these students actually studied computer science or anything allied in the space. And obviously as tech companies, that's what you expect of them also, right? Now, another thing that's very important for me is, okay, you have 48,000 plus alumni that we researched. Where are they? Are they based out of India or based out of outside of India? It also gives you a significant understanding of how global are the students who studied at Amrita. Are they really international in nature? Have they traveled the world? Are they working all over the world? That's something that you will give as an indication. Of the 48,000 plus, profiles that we researched, 39,851 are within India. That's 82.74%, which also means that about 17.5% students are working outside of India, which means that they moved out of India after studying at Amrita, which again means that the quality of education is good enough for the student to be mobile and move out of India, finding their own place under the sun and working anywhere in the world. So that is the number. The 39,000 of the 17% that I talked of, which are working outside the, have moved out of India, about 6% are in US, about 2.5% are in UAE, and then the numbers would keep going on. Other countries, including Europe and everything. Here I've listed out the top 10 places, of which, if you now carefully notice, in Bangalore itself, you actually have about 14%. Because it's a software company and they actually have campuses in Bangalore and Mysore and so on and so forth, right? In Greater Chennai area, it's about 7%. In Coimbatore, it's about 8%, because one of the campuses in Coimbatore, and Coimbatore is now becoming a hub for software development, right? In Karnataka, it's about 18%. In Tamil Nadu, it's 20%. So you actually have a very good range of, spread of students working all over the country and around the globe also. About 83% work in India, and about 17% people are working outside of India and are settled outside of India, which is where this number is coming from. Of the 48,000 plus, 39,851 are right now in India. The balance, which is about 8,500, are outside the country. Now again, what is the kind of role that these students, because one of the things again is it might be in business development, sales, marketing. What are the kind of roles that these students are working in currently, though they might have studied at Amrita? That's another thing that we try to explore, right? And when we looked at that data, about 35% students in IT are engineering, right? About 13% is in IT. Education is 10%. Operations is 8%. Research is 6.82%. Business development is 6.7%, right? And sales is only 3.15%. Now, when you look at this number, 35 plus 13, 48, 58, 65, 72, 80. About 80% of these, 72% of these people are in engineering, in IT, education, research and operations, which is what the kind of profile of the students of Amrita is in terms of the kind of roles that they play globally. Now, what is the field of study when they studied at Amrita? Because of it, they got those roles. That's another important study that we had to make, right? And when we looked at that 48,000 data, about 9,536 students studied computer sciences. 9,000 students studied computational science. Electrical and electronics, 4,831. Mechanical, 3,531. Computer engineering, 2,548. And AI, 2,188. So you actually have, again, a good spread, but a largely tech. And which is where, because we're talking of AEEE and Amrita B.Tech, this becomes important. You actually are dealing with about 18 plus 5, 23, 26, 27, 30, about 30 to 33,000 students in the top 6 fields are all these things that you're dealing with. And I'm sure as you move along also, many of these, the other engineering courses also would come in. So the 48,000 alumni that you have up there that we researched, about 34,000 students are B.Tech graduates, and maybe much more, because I've only listed the top 6 out here. And that is very important for you to know. So with this kind of a pedigree, with this kind of a background, with this kind of achievements that Amrita has, and with the kind of data that we showed where it looks like Amrita is students, once they graduate, are really conquering the world, moving around, getting good jobs, getting placed in very, very big companies, and traveling the world and working around the world. It's a good option for you. So what does it mean in terms of examination? Please, after JEE, if you think that it is, you need to keep an option open, Amrita becomes a very, very decent option for you, right? Now, when you take the examination, there are a few advantages also. The examination is AEEE, which is Amrita Engineering Entrance Examination. That's what you will take. And when you do that, the scholarships up to 75% are available on AEEE JEE. So there are scholarships up to 75% of the total fee that is given out by the university. And it's based on the examination rank of AEEE, right? And the scholarships are awarded depending on the cumulative grade points, which is called the CGPA. So this is a possibility. When you take the AEEE examination, this is what you're likely to get. That one is the, the kind of placement and jobs and everything, but more importantly, you also are possibly likely to get a scholarship if you were to apply here. Now, the criteria is again here, please visit the website, but essentially, you should have been born between 1st July 2004 and whose date of birth falls between 2004 and 2009 is what they're dealing with. And a pass in 10+2 is a must. More importantly, 60% aggregate in PCM with at least 55% in each of the subjects. That's very important for you. And the candidates passing out in 2025 and passed out in 2024. So last year's pass out students and this year's passing out students is what you should be applying for, right? Now, then you will say, okay, do I need to prepare for another examination? How difficult is it and all? Listen, all these examinations, AEEE, WITTI, BITSAT and all, they try to ensure that you're not preparing all over again. Your CBSE or whatever state board syllabus, it takes you up to a point. If you're preparing for JEE, then it takes you up to a large distance, right? In AEEE, if you look at it, both JEE, and here we compared AEEE with JEE mains to understand how it works out. Both are computer based. JEE is 3 hours and Amrita is 2.5 hours. The sections are physics, maths, physics, chemistry, and English is added here, which is not the case in the case of JEE. But you just have to have normal English. You don't need to study a lot for that part. There are 100 questions here. There are 75 questions here because English is added. Each of them is 25 and English is 25. The total marks is 300 in both the places, right? Which means 3 marks for each correct answer here. Here it's 4 marks because English is not there. Both are MCQs. For each correct answer, it's 3 marks here, and for each correct answer, it is 4 marks here. And both have a negative marking. So the syllabus, curriculum, everything is almost similar. So here is what I'll tell you. If you are like, at this point in time, if you have any time taken a mock test and you got 95 percentile and below, it is high time that you start planning for your plan B. And the plan B here, and a lot of coaching institutions, by the way, will give you hope and sell you hope that, oh, don't worry, everything will be all right and you still get into IIT. As a counselor, I have seen many students who did not have a plan B and fell down dramatically and took out the worst college. I'm just saying, fill in the application form. It is for you to decide as you move along of when you will take the examination, whether you will take the examination, whether you take the admission. Those are options that you exercise much later. But filling in an application is very minimal cost. It's important for you to keep that option open, so fill it in. And then you'll decide how to go about it much later. And 2, we recommended WITTI, we're now talking of Amrita, we're going to talk of 3 more examinations as we move along. Please subscribe to the channel if you want to continue to receive these updates. Because what we're going to talk here is nothing but data. What we're going to talk here is nothing but objective information through deep down research of what me and my team, 300 people team do to ensure that you take the right decision at every single point in time. I just hope that you succeed in everything that you wanted. I just hope that you succeed to get into IITs or NITs or IIITs the way you wanted. But if you still want to keep an option open, this is here. Amrita AEEE is something that you must keep as one of the options. And that's why I'm recommending that. I just hope that you succeed. Now, all of you would be worried about how we should take this examination, whether we should prepare for it, where do you get material and all. Go through careers360.com. You will have every single material that would help you prepare for this examination. You will also understand the pattern of the examination, the syllabus for the examination, and how to go about cracking it. We also have, where possible, the past few years question papers. We also have mock material. You can take a mock test on the platform. You can also actually download the complete study material for you to prepare for the examination. But remember, these examinations largely have your class 11th and 12th syllabus that you already studied, along with possibly some of the JEE examination syllabus. So if you're preparing for JEE examination, or if you're preparing for any of your state entrance examinations, much of the syllabus for these 5 examinations, if you still have a question, please write to us. I will personally ensure that you are responded to. The idea, the objective for all of us at Career 360 is simple, that we want you to succeed in your career path. We want you to succeed in your life. And for that, we'll go that extra mile to ensure that we do everything so that you can succeed. Thank you so much. Namaskar.